Uh, Welcome, my dear viewer, to Dr. Paul Bishop, PhD, QBHSC YouTube channel. And today, I want us to look at a few things that makes families not to go on as expected. Many families have issues. And I'm telling you, because I'm a scientist and I do a lot of research, I've come to realize that the majority of us people, especially those who are married, have had issues, and some couples have not been able to make any progress because what characterizes their marriage is quarrels all the time. You find a husband who is always quarreling with his wife, and you find a wife who is always quarreling with the husband. And when quarrels set in a family, I'm telling you, progress becomes a mirage. So, what do we require to do as family members in order for us to succeed? We are going to look at some of the common family problems and how to deal with them. Very, very, very important in our discussion today, because we have some families that are happy, others are not happy. And why am I talking about family issues? It is because I have seen some family members or some family characters who would not even plan for their children. You see that both parents are there, but children are still being sent home for school fees balances because a decision can't be made. There is no party that owns up. There are parties that who have got no responsibilities that are shared. You need to ask yourself, what are your responsibilities? As the man of the house, what are some of your responsibilities? As the woman of the house, what are some of your responsibilities? What ought to be done? So in case you meet and you realize that you are always in argument, you're not in agreement at all the time, that is one of the hiccups that makes many families not succeed. So, and when it comes even to matters finances, matters planning for their retirement, matters to do with what we call progress, development, you find that families suffer a lot. Remember, marrying the person you love and starting a family is not a fairy tale after all. Some problems come across the journey, and we need to ask ourselves, what can we do to ensure that our family members are functional? I have seen homesteads where a lady can't make a decision, even taking an education policy for her child, because the husband is there. And you wonder sometimes, and I'll start from the education policy because that is one thing that has brought many families quarrels. You realize that your husband is not a good decision maker, and it's unfortunate that we earn salaries, all of us. Fine, as families, we should discuss matters finances. We should be open to each other. We should agree what are the responsibilities that one has been given within that particular family setup so that our families can move on and grow to greater heights. But you realize I have met some ladies who can't make a financial commitment because the husbands have not been consulted. You find a lady who has a 10-year-old child, they don't have an education policy, they have no savings for this particular child because the husband can't make a decision, the wife can't make a decision, and problems are always in a particular family. Why? Because they haven't been able to realize that we have got different capabilities and capacities, and we have not been wired the same way. There are those people in the family who have been wired to become the destiny creators in the family. So unless you realize where your role is, unless you realize why God has brought you in that particular family, problems will always be there. And we must appreciate that every family has issues. And the earlier we realize that, the better for us, because we'll be able to fix that particular problem. Now, if you realize that in your marriage, arguments are there all the time, there are better fights that clear the air, and then there are bad ones, learning the environment for everyone. So sometimes you realize that in your family, arguments are the ones that take the center stage. So you need to ask yourself as an individual, where is the root cause of these problems? Where are they coming from? Are they coming because I've not been able to adhere to what I've already been told? Or are they coming because they're coming for the sake of coming? Sometimes in a relationship, it is all about how you're arguing instead of what you're arguing about. So what are you arguing about in this particular family? So you've been married for 15 years, you have no house, or you have no piece of land, you have no home of your own, you have no investment, and you're still aging. Sometimes you have to engage yourselves into what we call a serious discussion so that you may rectify the problem before it is too late. So if you realize that your family is full of arguments, you need to look at those arguments. Are they arguments about content, or are they arguments for the sake of them being arguments? Then, if arguments are there, how do you handle those arguments? Because you cannot survive and thrive in arguments. Because when arguments set in, they actually now inhibit you from making decisions that may enable you to move on. Very important. You need to look at that particular point and see how best you can be able to handle those arguments. And once you handle those arguments, now do you get a solution? What is it that you want to do, and how do you do it? Very important. The other thing that you need to ask yourself, parenting decisions. Yeah, parenting. Most of the time, family fights all about how the kids should be raised. It all starts with the decision of whether to have or not to have the kids. You need to agree. Moving on further, you might be fighting over the disciplinary training, schooling, religion, and a lot of other things about the kid. So agree. Remember, it should be mutual. Bringing up those children should be mutual. It should be between you and your spouse. Why do I say so? It is because sometimes you may realize that the husband has issues. Sometimes you may realize that the wife has issues. But the bottom line is, these are your children. So you agree on how to raise up those children. You cannot raise up your children when you're an absent parent. You need to be there. You need to understand. You need to have the feel of your children. After all, you are the ones who brought those children into today's universe. So parenting decisions are very important. Where do you want to take your child to school? What is it that is required of this particular child? Where do there are a number of things that you need to consider. Very important. So you need to look at that as well. Parenting decisions is key. Very important. You don't have to say that this is a preserve of your wife. No, even as husbands, you have a role to play. And because I'm a parent and I've got young adults, it is incumbent upon both of us, my wife and myself, to direct our children in the right ways. And even the Bible tells us that we need to train our children the right ways, so that even when they grow big or when they grow old, they will not depart from them. So we need to agree. Otherwise, there are issues. Disagreements may arise that may separate the family members because there was no agreement on how to raise up our children. Very important. The other thing is that balancing home and work life. You cannot keep on saying that you are going to work and you have children here. Your children requires you as well. You must balance your life. Life is unfair at times. Life is unfair sometimes. You have dreams, but to accomplish them, you have to give up your family time sometimes. You need to give your family some time. Very important. You do this for your family, but most of the time, people don't understand and you keep blaming one another. No, you don't require to blame one another. See what is your role, do your role, and do what is expected of you. Very important. So balance. You cannot be working 24/7. Getting the family organized. You need to get your family organized. It is hard enough to get yourself organized. Now you have a family to take care of. When you have a partner and kids to manage, chaos is inevitable. And sometimes it ends up badly. So what do we require to do? So it is better to seek a smart solution. You need to contact and to talk to several people who have brought up their children the right way, whom you think so that they can also give you a leave, borrow a leave. Know how to get your family organized. How many children do you want to get? Where do they have to go to school? What kind of life do you want to subject them to? And do you have the sustainable program for them, so that even if you're not there, they can be able to move on with life? Then lack of proper communication. It is fine when you're interested in making yourself clear to a colleague, but you must take the same practice at home. When there is miscommunication among family members, a lot of things go wrong. Communication is the issue of every relationship. If you're weak at it, relations can't grow. So you need to know how to communicate. You cannot keep on insulting your spouse, your wife, your husband. For those ladies who earn more than their husband, you can't keep on lading your husband because he doesn't have enough money. You must appreciate that God blesses every individual at his own or her own time. So we can't. And after all, if you got married legally and you formally, that is, and you accepted to be part of that particular family, the Bible says when you took your vows during good times and bad times, work on that. Communication is important. It is in communication that problems are solved. Very important. There's some people of your family who just feel like stressing you. Some members stress you out. It can be your wife, it can be your husband, it can be your sisters and brothers, it can be your kids. They can be source of what we call stress. So how do you handle that? You need to come up with what we call a stress managing mechanism, so that you do not become a problem to everybody in your family. Then share responsibilities. You must have clear-cut division of responsibilities. When it's about duties, nobody enjoys them. But since they teach us many things, you can't just avoid them. So you go there, teach your kids what they ought to do. Let your spouse know what is her role. So that you can have what we call a clear-cut responsibility mantra, where conflict will be reduced. Very, very important. And this is what I've been talking about. Even we parents, we must come up with a plan of educating our children, a plan of planning for our retirement. We need to plan about our retirement, our health insurance. Very, very important. But most of us people, and that's where problems arise. The other thing is that you don't have to be very far from your family. Being far from the family can also be a source of quarrels and problems. If you're not near to your family, it's a big stress for you. Number one, the holidays are the toughest times when you're not with them. Getting homesick can happen so it's always important to have what we call a schedule that allows you to periodically be closer to your family members. Otherwise, the far use the longer the distance from your family members, the more problems crop up, because you can't be able to have what we call a mechanism to solve problems in situ, on the spot when they occur. So if your spouse is suffering from a mental illness, or any member of your family, you need to appreciate that mental illness is a sickness like any other. Do not go casting aspersions. Know how to handle that, because the problem has confronted you, so that you can move on. Finally, if there is divorce in the family, that becomes a source of many problems. So it's important to ensure, and I want to remind my brothers and sisters who are watching me, that in marriage, problems will always be there. You're not wired in the same way. You don't think the same way. But that does not mean that you can't try to solve the problems, and you see what you can be able to accommodate. It's very, very important. And by so doing, your family becomes a solid family if you have agreed on parameters to learn your family. By so doing, you'll be able to know how to plan your finances, how to budget your money, where to retire to, what to retire, when you retire, what will you be doing, among other things. May God bless you as you manage your family. That was just, by the way, I thought it was important to share with you that information. May God bless you. Shalom, shalom, shalom.